Well, hello. Today I'd like to talk to you about the Sheaffer 330, which is secretly part of their Imperial line, but just don't tell anybody. So, this is actually a cheap pen from the 1970s, but don't tell anybody that either, because I think they'll be impressed. Let's dive into it. So if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, do you have a sleeper pen that like this that maybe you really like, that other people just don't think of? Let us know in the comments. So let's take a look at it. Now the Sheaffer 330 is a pen from the 1970s, so I struggle with the word vintage. Why? I'm from the 1970s. So, we can't call anything that's about my age vintage, so we'll just have to call it a mature pen. Or a used pen. Except okay, we won't go there. Let's take a look at it. We'll set my notes to the side here. So the pen itself is one of those slim black pens I like. Short clip with a white dot. We'll come back to the white dot. This is actually a great pen, I'll tell you the truth. Very first day of school this year, I forgot my beloved Lamy 2000. But I had this pen with me, actually filled with Pilot Blue Black at the time. And it served admirably as my daily writer for the first day of school. Would I have preferred my Lamy 2000? Oh, hells yes. But this did quite well. It was actually filled up at the time to be for a review that I had just filmed on that hard drive that was lost. So this is me finally refilming the review. Inlaid nib, which I think is very interesting. Let's see if I can get a little closer for you. Steel, of course. Nubs for gripping the cap. And a feed. The filling mechanism is actually a earlier converter. It's a aerometric converter, so you press the pressure bar to squeeze the sac in here. This will also take the modern cartridges and modern converters, but this is what it came with, and I thought, well, if it works, let's stick with it. So that's the pen. I just think it has this gorgeous 70s, late 60s look, and I will just add during that spell when I filmed its review, and then I was going to refilm it right away after I destroyed that hard drive by dropping it on the floor, it sat down here in the basement for quite a long time till I did some neatening up before school started and put it into my pen carry case. Started up like a champ that first day of school after sitting here for probably a month or more unused. So I'm impressed by that. I did find, this is interesting, seriously, a Walmart web listing for the pen. Now, it's clearly sold as a 1970s pen, you know, if you just look at that description, but I just found that fascinating that this was not easy to find, but on a Walmart webpage, which apparently has just not been cleaned up as Walmart has taken care of its webpage. There's a short diamond inlaid steel nib. It doesn't click to cap, but it is secure. And I will just say that some of how you can judge the age of these apparently is by the shape of the nib, but I don't have that information to hand, so we won't go there. But I do have something else to hand. Let's see if I can pull back. Nope, that's as far as I can go. This is not Walmart listing. This is an old apparently a National Geographic 76. On the other side of this article about blue crabs. Interesting. So I was given this. It came along with some pen that I bought somewhere along the line. But you can see a definite similarity. Let's post it. But you're clearly looking at an advertisement for a much more expensive pen. The nib is much more tapered up here in the diamond. The nubs seem to be a little better, definitely a better quality material, but very similar pen. So this here says that your signature tells the world who you are, so does your pen. The Sheaffer white dot, got one. It says you're a person who appreciates the lasting values of expert craftsmanship, precious metals, and a respected name. And that's saying a lot. Sheaffer Textron. Apparently that was another pen they had. Sign it with a Sheaffer. Alright, so enough of that. Let's actually sign something with a Sheaffer. I do not post this pen, although I could. Alright, so the Imperial is because I'll get into why the Imperial is in parentheses after my writing sample. The ink in it is De Atramentis. Fur. Let's just try posting it just for giggles and snorts. Posts quite securely, by the way. Flex, of course not. And I would especially, even more so, be afraid of pushing this pen too far because, if that steel nib gets bumped loose from where it's inlaid, I don't know how to fix that. So not a lot of flex, a little bit of line variation, nothing amazing. Wetness and flow. Very smooth writer. I don't know if I've said that yet. This is a very impressive pen. Let's be clear on that. Wetness and flow. Pretty good. Smear test. Yeah, pretty wet. And reverse writing. Surprisingly smooth, and an ultra double extra fine. Let's do a longer form writing sample with some kind of a quote. And finally, let's do a Pierre Gustafson test, where we just see how it handles what he calls off-roading. I see a few skips in there, especially when I started doing the straight lines, but overall I would say it kept up, and obviously it kept up very well while I was writing. Okay, one more test. This one is all mine. Ooh, Lamy 2000 in there. No trouble at all. So a good pen to slip in and out of your pocket, which indeed it did the very first day of school. Now we'll set this down here. I mentioned about the Imperial, which I put in parentheses up here. The reason I did that, the Sheaffer Imperials were actually cartridge pens introduced like 1961, 1962. And there were a few touchdowns. I actually have what I think I may correct this when I do the actual video, but I think I have a video of an Imperial 2 coming, which is a touchdown filler. These lower priced pens were not sold as Imperials, even though they share a lot of the design similarities. In fact, when I first looked at them, I thought, well, what's the difference? Well, there is one, as you'll see when I get around to filming that review. But, you know, the lower priced models just weren't called that. And I'll just be honest, the bibliography is short because I couldn't find a whole lot about this model. That said, like it a lot. This is a great pen. So I was very disappointed that I didn't get to start my first day of school this year with the Lamy 2000. But this pen did a wonderful job doing the exact same thing the Lamy 2000 does. I think I could live happily with this pen. Do I like the Lamy 2000 better? Of course I do. But this is a very nice pen. And definitely not a pen that's going to sleep in my pen case after this. It's going to get into the regular rotation at various points. And I would just say this also, if you are interested in vintage, this isn't vintage because it's almost my age, but looking at the 70s, you can get some very good pens, often at lower cost, usually often in good condition still. It's another area to look at for vintage. It's not vintage, I'm sorry. I'm insulting myself. But what I'm trying to say is, don't just look at your fancy 1930s Parker Dual folds or something. There are interesting pens from all eras, and some of them are cheaper than others. And if you like slim black pens, that has worked very well for me, because a lot of the vintage pens you see that really are vintage allow me to afford those occasional much more expensive vintage or modern pens without breaking my pen budget. This is one of the ones that did allow me to afford some more expensive ones, because this was, what, $20 or something? It was cheap. So I guess that's my long drawn out way of saying, don't always look for the big famous pens if you're looking for vintage. Here's a Sheaffer, big name. We have a nice pen. This isn't a pen that everybody wants in their collection. And yet it really deserves to be in those collections. So keep that in mind. So if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, leave a comment down below. Maybe there's a lesser known vintage pen that you know of. Or maybe you can add more about the Sheaffer Imperial line. In any case, please feel free to leave a comment. So I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.